right, everybody. Welcome to the very first episode of our new show, Particularly Innovative, where we dive deep into the wide world of DeFi. It's an honor and a pleasure to have here today Deez, the head of growth from Mode. And we're going to be talking about the future of DeFi, our very exciting new partnership with Charged Particles, and the product we'll be launching with Mode, known as Web3 Packs. Deez, thanks so much for joining me today.
Thanks for having us. Busy week, and we're in the fire and flames here. So this is going to be it's an interview from the trenches.
Yeah, it seems like it's always that way. It doesn't stop moving at full speed in DeFi. Hey.
So true, so true.
All right. Well, let's start with just a little bit about Mode. Some people maybe this, Mode could be one of the newer networks and blockchains to them. So I'd love to get your insight as to, what Mode is, what it stands for, and how you guys see yourselves positioned in the greater landscape. So I've seen, this phrase you guys use, that Mode's vision is to create an on-chain cooperative economy. Could you expand on what that means to you?
Yeah, so we start with kind of the optimism layer, which is the optimism collective. So in the broader economy of chains like Base and Optimism, Mode is positioned as the DeFi hub or a DeFi research arm, in a sense, with how fast our protocols are moving and how intimate we have as far as relationships building with them. So we can really focus on a select number of protocols and push the envelope where maybe other ecosystems that are a little larger, the bandwidth gets a little pinched. So we have that privilege to work very closely with teams and provide curated experiences. And then when we get down into the micro economy, so working our way from the super chain into the Mode ecosystem, that on-chain cooperative is very much putting pieces together of teams that are hungry and excited and have great Lego pieces that fit together that may just need some concentrated coordination. And so Charged Particles is a great example of this because we have amazing teams building, but our distribution lanes could be a lot better. So having a team like yours, which creates this creative, interactive, and really elegant way to access some of the best opportunities on Mode it's pretty incredible. And so the cooperation part of things is building together and making things more accessible and just being a team player all around. I have in my bio playing positive sum games, and I carry that every day. So yeah, it's exciting. That is the cooperative in a nutshell, I should say.
Yeah, wonderful. I would love to dig in even a little deeper there when it comes to, what you guys are looking for when it comes to, accelerating DeFi innovation, for projects like ours, but also, just more broadly, like what is it that you're looking for specifically when it comes to innovation and new tools and Lego pieces as you described?
Yeah, for sure. So we have tons of tooling that is coming out, such as V4 hooks, the next iteration of Uniswap. And we have all this account abstraction that's going on and account managers and even AI management processes. But it's kind of an art form moving forward and building this innovative ecosystem because at the same token, it's so easy to copy pasta protocols that have worked in the past, spin up front ends. And so we really have to dig into the teams and the documents and seeing where specifically people are upgrading. Where are we pushing the needle? And that's what we're looking for. So when we're talking to teams through chats or in person or even through referrals, we're looking for teams that have that one extra piece that they've pushed the limit on, that they've gotten an additional audit for, or something that is creative and a new way. We want to stay on that very front lines of DeFi innovation. And so those are the teams we go after. So if it's more copy pasta, it's fine. I mean, we definitely need a base layer and we welcome everyone to come to Mode, but it is very competitive. So the teams that have those edges, the teams that are pushing the limits, and the proof is really in the pudding. You see those increased yields, you see utilization, you see different mechanics playing out. And then the DeFi OGs are taking advantage of this, but this also sucks in more retail and different crowds to experience what it's like to experiment. It's not completely straightforward, of course, all the time, but um, that's where we're here. We're in the lab. We're cooking.
Yeah, great. Well, let's talk about some of those retail users and especially the newer users, which of course we're very interested with Web3 packs in terms of onboarding and making the process of getting into DeFi, which is evolving so rapidly, that much more simple. Where you can get access to lots of these different strategies and ecosystems, projects, and tokens all in one place. Onboarding and accessibility is one of the key things for us. But I noticed that right on your front page it says on-chain finance for the next billion. So I wonder what's your perspective about adoption and onboarding and scaling to a wider crypto space, for a larger global audience.
Yeah, of course. And I think this view is probably popular across the space, but you just got to get normies on board. And that starts with account abstraction. That starts with things just being very easy, very simple. I think we had a small preview of that with the BlockFi and the Celsiuses of the day, where your retail was comfortable using something that it showed an APR, it showed an opportunity, and they kind of just didn't have to worry about it, even though those stories ended terribly. That concept of ease of use is still remains, and so it starts from us building very simplified tooling, which can stack different strategies and let the DeFi builders put these things together. But then it's about that account layer, that app layer. And so there's a couple tools, I think, in everyone's toolkit that people are looking at, and those are the AI models. So using language models to just translate simple desires to earn yield or save or move things around, from just simple prompts to feed that into simple DeFi execution. But then it's also eliminating choice paralysis to an extent, because there are so many opportunities when someone opens up CoinGecko or they open up really any website. They're bombarded with information. So how do we distill this down to pieces that deliver the most powerful services, but it's easy to digest? And I think that's really where charged particles comes in, where people feel like they're checking out at a Shopify experience, or they're having a sample platter. I mean, some of the most popular things when people go to breweries or wineries is, give me the flight, right? Let me try some different things, and then I'll dip in even further. So I think we can use that same strategy for DeFi and for opportunities on chains where people want to try things. And I remember us, in our development process when we're thinking about increments, right? It's important to offer small increments and then large increments when you feel comfortable. So I think that's how we onboard the next billion, is considering our tooling and implementing all of that, but then being very cognizant of the user journey and not just abstracting away chains and different interfaces, but also abstracting choice away and easing people into these things where they can feel comfortable learning and they feel comfortable owning the learning experience, where they feel like they've grasped a certain level of understanding and moved to the next level. And then that's how that spreads. Then they are now the source of truth in their or source of knowledge in their small circle, and they can onboard others. I think many of us have experienced that over the years. We just need to reproduce it.
Right. And for anyone who's watching our first episode here who maybe is unfamiliar with the idea of Web3 packs, using our protocol at Charged Particles, we're able to make an NFT a container that can hold other tokens inside of it. And so we're able to offer these bundled starter packs that give you access and exposure to many tokens across the ecosystem, be it ERC20s or NFTs, or even liquidity pool tokens. And this is really interesting because in one simple flow with a single transaction, you can get access to lots of different kinds of DeFi strategies, and making that process that much simpler, rather than going to 12 different platforms and signing 24 different transactions and paying gas in all of these different places and even finding them in the first place. And then from the platform perspective, it also helps to lateralize stability between those projects. Encourages the success of the entire ecosystem in this way, which is why we're so excited about it. I would love to talk a little bit more about, just, access across multiple ecosystems. Mode is, part of the super chain, as you mentioned. Could you maybe give us just a little bit of your background on the super chain for those who maybe are not aware of it, and how you see the future of interoperability between the various layer two solutions and how Mode is positioning itself in that context?
Yeah, of course. So the super chain was the Optimism Foundation. They started the collective, which was basically a set of agreements that they put forth and invited others to build within these parameters, in the hopes that we're planning on a future that is interoperable. And in order to get there, everyone needs to be following a general structure flow. So the super chain is a umbrella that houses multiple chains that build in a specific way, that as so Optimism can drive the tooling forward for interoperability, and then all of these chains will be ready to plug in when that infrastructure is set up. So the super chain is, yeah, essentially an agreement between a lot of folks that are hoping to build together. So some of the popular chains are Optimism. We've got Base, we've got Mode, of course, and there's plenty of others that are coming aboard. But those are the ones that we are working with closely every day. And as far as like what that means, why is that cool when they can interoperate, is it'll be shared liquidity, it will be shared ecosystems, it won't be so siloed. So all the important work we're doing in the DeFi landscape can be accessible very easily by other chains. And then say a chain that's excelling in community development like Base, things like that, Mode can tap into that. And then all chains can hopefully participate more in Optimism's governance flows, which are so strong. And so it brings the strengths of each chain hopefully into a broader ecosystem that is just really easy to access for any everyday user, and for the builders who desperately just want people to see and use their products or experience their culture or communities.
Mhm.
So this interoperability will really help with that.
That's great. So, just to, maybe broaden our perspective a little bit, just in general, I'm looking forward. What do you think are some of the most pressing issues that blockchains in general, that DeFi, that, interoperable, cooperative networks, what are the most pressing issues that DeFi is solving, and what will it solve going forward?
I think that the biggest thing is solving is just accessibility to very powerful tools that access the movement of money. So any kind of yield, any kind of growth is just coming from velocity of money, whether it's in or out or up or down. And so in the past, or just in traditional systems, you have to go through certain gatekeepers to access these financial services. And so what DeFi is, and especially post a Denkun upgrade, making gas so cheap, not only people can access these financial growth tools, they can also learn about it and experiment with a very low cost of capital. So I think DeFi is really, at least in its current state, educating through doing. Money is so taboo in many cultures and many everyday situations. And I mean, there's a reason, at least uh, for a lot of people, they outsource this, to accountants, to financial advisors. It's money is a siloed psychological thing that is someone else takes care of. And with DeFi, it doesn't have to be that way. People can learn about how money works, how it grows, where supply and demand come from, what is yield, right? I mean, why does a lending product get yield? Why do perps counterparty liquidity? Why does it earn yield? Where does this money come from? And so it's someone using a service and someone providing, liquidity to facilitate that. And so people can read up on that all day, but until you put $10 into a lending market and see your balance slowly grow, or lever up and take a small loan to value position, and experience having more capital exposed to a market than you started with, it makes the word capital efficiency real. And so that's just a taste of a lot of things people can dive into. But that's what DeFi, I think, it is solving, is providing street smarts education to all, through experimentation and just through accessibility.
Yeah, that's a wonderful perspective. Yeah, an accessible global financial ecosystem with no barriers to entry, ideally. Um, so your title, is the head of growth for Mode. So can you tell me a little bit, like what do you see the next 3 to 5 years looking like for Mode, just at a glance?
3 to 5 years, my goodness. And man, in crypto, that is, I'll be I'll be living in space by then, I
You
feel.
you could start with 1 to 2 if you'd like, and work as far as is possible.
I love it. Yeah, I love it. Well, ideally, we have on-chain agents that are readily taking prompts and directing people's liquidity to places that line up with their financial motives. I can see that being a reality. I also see some protocols that are stacking multiple services and concentrating yields from a variety of services into very uh, concise locations. And what do I mean by that is that there's a lot of different DeFi services out there, like lending, borrowing, collateralized debt positions, perps markets, yield markets, all the DeFi buzzwords. But many of these products are offering one service, and they're generating revenue from that service. And typically, if it's decentralized, they're directing that revenue at a primary source, whether that's a native token or an LP, a liquidity token, something that the community can partake in that revenue generation. What I feel like we can accomplish on Mode with our close relationship with some of these really aggressive and smart builders is aggregating these tools and aggregating the teams where multiple services are generating revenue, but with the same team or the same front end, or maybe even a collective of assets, where we will create these essentially superpositions where holding one LP token or maybe a variety of native tokens are really delivering outsized yields because they're pulling revenue from lots of different places. And I think that's only possible with a lot of concentrated hard work and communication and coordination. And at Mode, we have the privilege of doing that every day. We have a small team that is in contact with a lot of other small, very hungry teams, but very talented. So ideally, Mode is a place where maybe people don't know they're using it. If we're talking 2, 3, 4 years, right? If the application layer is so abstracted away, I think a lot of people won't know. Actually, I know this. Most people won't even know what chain they're on. But hopefully that liquidity engine on Mode is delivering some of the best opportunities on these apps. Even if people don't know what's going on in the background, we hope to be building some really outsized opportunities that can be tapped into across the space, boarding the next billion. So I think those are I think the main things remote could be.
Great. Yeah. And so just to wrap up our conversation here, to keep it bite-sized for everyone out there, running at full speed like we are, I'd like to end this show with a recurring question, speaking to some of those folks that are newer, that are just getting started with DeFi, that have hung on through this whole episode with all these new terms they might be learning, but they'd like to get involved. They want to learn more. What kind of advice would you give them? What does DeFi mean to you? Anything like this directed towards, someone just entering the ecosystem.
I love this. I love this question. I think the advice now is much different than years ago. I think with if they have access to ChatGPT or any kind of their Claude or whatever their favorite language model is, I think a very effective way can be to prompt this service to act as your coach and then keep that on a side screen while you're investigating wherever you are and asking it questions and having it tutor. And that will, luckily, it's trained on data that's recent enough that it can give a broad overview. That's a very hands-on approach. Another way is to follow some really old YouTube channels, not so much talking about price action, but just talking about different tutorials. I think YouTube is still an underrated tool in learning. And then ultimately the Discords, I think, my number one. I know it's daunting, but just getting into the Discords and chatting with people. So whatever protocol you feel looks interesting, or someone referred it to you, or you found it on some rabbit hole, the Discord is really where you can get that inside information, where the team members and community members can really hold your hand. I think Discord communities have been a front door for many of us coming into the community and learning and getting our foot in it. And even another piece of advice I give people too, as I see this often, is find a pseudo name that you like. Find a image that represents you. Join the culture of things. You don't have to attach your everyday identity to this learning process if you feel intimidated by asking certain questions or diving in. Obviously, with that kind of pseudo layer, there comes some responsibility. Like, don't be an a-hole to people, but at the same time, use it as to give you courage and give you a way to ask what you might think is a stupid question. There are no stupid questions, but just really dive in there and learn, because this world is coming to you. This world is coming to all of us, and either we help shape it or it will shape us. So it's important to grab the reins and get in there. Eventually, you'll be in a lot of probably very small Telegram groups with lots of blue bubbles. And when you get to that point, you know you are a builder, whatever that means. It doesn't have to be a developer, but if you're managing these communication rails, we're so happy that you've arrived and you're with us building. It's a beautiful thing. We'll look back at all this one day and laugh, but it's important to appreciate the moment. And not everyone can work on the bleeding edge of bringing in a new era. So get excited.
Yeah, it's a really lovely perspective to have, and thanks for sharing. And thanks again for jumping on. I appreciate your time and your insights here. I know that everyone on our side is very excited to be working in the Mode ecosystem, and to continue developing, that world that you're describing. So thanks again, Deez, for your time, and thanks everybody for watching our first episode. We'll have a few more very interesting and engaged guests in the coming weeks as we announce more partnerships within this ecosystem, and we're very excited for it. Yeah, thank you very much, Deez. See you next time. Hey.